Most men live their entire lives as slaves, following orders they never questioned, accepting mediocrity as their ceiling, dying with dreams they never dared pursue. But 150 years ago, a philosopher named Friedrich Nietzsche exposed the most dangerous truth about human nature, a truth so brutal, so earth-shattering, that it separates the extraordinary from the eternally ordinary. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly why most men remain trapped in mental prison cells they've built for themselves. And, more importantly, how to break free and become what he called the Übermensch, the man who transcends. So pay attention, because what you're about to hear isn't just philosophy, it's the blueprint for becoming ungovernable. Nietzsche didn't believe in fairy tales about equality. He saw humanity for what it really is, a hierarchy where most men voluntarily place themselves at the bottom. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The vast majority of men are what he called herd animals. They crave safety, comfort, and approval more than they crave greatness. They would rather fit in than stand out, rather follow than lead, rather be accepted than be exceptional. Look around you. Most men wake up, go to jobs they hate, come home to lives that drain them, and repeat this cycle until death. They call this being responsible. Nietzsche called it spiritual suicide. The modern man has been domesticated, trained like cattle to graze peacefully within invisible fences. He's been taught that ambition is selfish, that questioning authority is dangerous, that comfort is the highest virtue. But here's where it gets sinister. This isn't accidental. Society needs the herd. It needs men who don't think for themselves, who follow orders without question, who sacrifice their potential for stability. The education system doesn't create leaders, it creates followers. The corporate world doesn't reward originality, it rewards compliance. Modern culture doesn't celebrate strength, it celebrates weakness disguised as virtue. Nietzsche saw this clearly. The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. Most men never pay that price. They remain owned by others their entire lives. Here's where Nietzsche's philosophy becomes dangerous to the establishment. He identified two types of morality: master morality and slave morality. Master morality is the code of the strong. It values power, excellence, nobility, and self-determination. The master creates his own values based on what elevates life and human potential. Slave morality is the code of the weak. It values humility, self-sacrifice, obedience, and equality. The slave accepts values imposed on him by others, especially values that keep him weak. Modern society runs entirely on slave morality, and most men have swallowed it completely. You're told that wanting to be better than others is wrong, that competition is toxic, that success should make you feel guilty, that your natural masculine instincts are problematic. You're taught to apologize for taking up space, to dim your light so others don't feel bad, to sacrifice your dreams for the greater good, to feel ashamed of your ambition. This is psychological castration, and most men submit to it willingly. Nietzsche warned, "The weak and ill-constituted shall perish, first principle of our philanthropy, and one shall help them to do so." He wasn't advocating cruelty. He was pointing out that nature rewards strength and punishes weakness. But modern society has reversed this natural order. Now weakness is celebrated as virtue. Victimhood is currency. Mediocrity is protected. The strong are shamed into hiding their power. The result? A generation of men who are physically weak, mentally soft, and spiritually broken. Men who have never tasted their own power because they've been convinced that power itself is evil.
Nietzsche's most famous proclamation, "God is dead," isn't about atheism. It's about the collapse of absolute moral authority. And most men have no idea what this means for their lives. For centuries, men derived their sense of purpose from external sources: God, king, country, tradition. These gave life meaning and direction. But as these structures crumbled, they left a vacuum. Most modern men live in this vacuum. They have no transcendent purpose, no mission that drives them beyond comfort and pleasure, no code they would die for. This is what Nietzsche called nihilism. The belief that nothing matters, that life has no inherent meaning. And nihilism creates weak men. Men who drift through life without direction. Men who live for the weekend. Men who medicate their emptiness with entertainment, substances, and mindless consumption. But Nietzsche didn't leave us in despair. He showed us the way out. If the old gods are dead, then man must become his own God. He must create his own values, define his own purpose, become the author of his own existence. This is terrifying to most men. They would rather be told what to think, what to value, what to pursue. Self-determination requires courage that most don't possess. But for the man brave enough to embrace this responsibility, this is where true power begins.
Nietzsche identified the fundamental drive behind all life, the will to power. This isn't just the desire to dominate others, it's the drive to grow, to overcome, to become more than you are. Every living thing seeks to expand its influence, to test its limits, to reach its potential. This is natural, this is healthy, this is what makes life worth living. But modern society has convinced men that the will to power is dangerous, that ambition leads to corruption, that wanting to be exceptional makes you a bad person. So men suppress their natural drive for excellence. They settle for mediocrity. They apologize for their success. They dim their fire to make others comfortable. This suppression doesn't make the will to power disappear, it makes it sick. It turns inward and becomes self-destruction, or it becomes resentment toward those who haven't suppressed theirs. Look at the modern man. He's either destroying himself with bad habits and negative self-talk, or he's bitter toward successful men, calling them toxic or privileged. Both responses come from the same source: suppressed will to power. Nietzsche taught that the healthy expression of this drive requires 3 transformations. First, you must become the camel, carrying the heavy load of self-discipline and responsibility. Most men never even reach this stage. They remain children, avoiding difficult tasks and hard truths their entire lives. Second, you must become the lion, saying no to the values imposed on you by others. This is where you break the chains of social conditioning and family expectations. This is where you stop living for approval and start living for excellence. Third, you must become the child, creating new values based on your own vision of what life should be. This is where you become truly free. Most men die as camels. Some become lions, very few become children.
Nietzsche proposed the ultimate psychological test. What if you had to live your exact same life over and over again for eternity? Every joy, every pain, every triumph, every failure. Infinite repetition with no changes possible. Would you welcome this news or would it horrify you? Most men would be horrified. Their lives are filled with compromises, mediocrity, and wasted potential. The thought of repeating it eternally would be hell. But the Übermensch would embrace it, not because his life is perfect, but because he has lived it fully. He has pursued his highest potential. He has created something beautiful from the raw material of existence. This test reveals everything about how you're living. Are you building a life worthy of eternal repetition? Or are you just killing time until time kills you? Most men are killing time. They're living in waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity, the right person to give them permission to start living fully. The Übermensch doesn't wait. He creates the right moment. He becomes the right opportunity. He gives himself permission. Here's the truth they don't want you to know. Modern society is designed to prevent the emergence of exceptional men. Not through force, but through comfort. They give you just enough pleasure to keep you docile, just enough entertainment to keep you distracted, just enough comfort to keep you from questioning why you're not living up to your potential. They've weaponized convenience against your growth. Why develop skills when you can buy solutions? Why build character when you can avoid challenges? Why become strong when the system will protect you? They've made weakness profitable. Victim status grants social benefits. Mediocrity is celebrated as authentic. Average is rebranded as enough. But the Übermensch sees through these illusions. He understands that the system needs him weak because his strength threatens their control. They can't govern a man who doesn't need their approval, their validation, or their protection. This is why exceptional men throughout history have been viewed as dangerous, not because they harm others, but because they expose what's possible. They make other men's limitations look like choices rather than fate. Becoming the Übermensch isn't about following a formula. It's about discovering what you're capable of when you stop limiting yourself to what others think is possible. Start by questioning everything you've been taught about what you should want, how you should live, what you should value. Most of these beliefs weren't chosen by you. They were installed in you by others who had their own agenda. Embrace discomfort as your teacher. Seek out challenges that reveal your hidden strength. Say yes to opportunities that scare you. Choose the harder path when it leads to growth. Stop seeking approval from people you don't respect. Stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. Stop apologizing for your ambition. Build something that matters to you, regardless of whether others understand it. Create value in the world. Leave something behind that wouldn't exist without your effort. Most importantly, take full ownership of your life. No excuses, no blame, no waiting for permission. You are the author of your story. The question is, will you write something worth reading? Nietzsche showed us that most men live as slaves, not because they have to, but because they choose to. They choose the safety of conformity over the risk of greatness. They choose the comfort of following over the responsibility of leading. But you have a choice right now. You can continue living as the herd animal society wants you to be, following orders, seeking approval, settling for mediocrity, or you can choose the path of the Übermensch. You can break free from the mental prison of social conditioning. You can stop making excuses and start creating excellence. The world needs men
who refuse to be governed by others' limitations, men who create their own values, men who build something beautiful from the chaos of existence. The question isn't whether you're capable of this transformation. The question is whether you have the courage to attempt it. Most men don't. They live their entire lives wondering, what if, instead of finding out what's possible? But if you're different, if something inside you refuses to accept mediocrity as your ceiling, then this is your moment. The cage door is open. The only question is whether you'll walk through it. Your future self is waiting to see what you decide.